The Naked Truth Report is sponsored by Kathleen Wells on AM 870, The Answer.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome. My truth warriors and mythbusters, welcome to the Naked Truth Report out there in Truth Warrior land. My lovely truth warriors and mythbusters. I was going to go straight to my guest. My guest is, we have an encore presentation, but we don't have him on the phone yet, and I think he'll be here eventually soon. The encore presentation is with Judge Joe Brown. We're going to talk about manhood and the school shootings. But since he isn't on the line yet, I'm going to sort of ad-lib. What do I want to talk about? I want to talk about, let's see, guess what? Rosenstein, the Attorney General, he had a news conference and he says he's going to indict, Mueller is going to indict, 15 Russians? How is that? I mean, what do you guys think about that? He's going to indict 50. How relevant is that? I mean, are they going to extradite these Russians? And what is the relationship of that indictment to the actual Mueller investigation regarding Trump, the Trump campaign, and collusion? In fact, Rosenstein said that, what did he say? He said that Rosenstein is the deputy attorney general. Because why? Because Sessions recused himself from the Russian, any matters regarding Russia. So Rosenstein actually said something to the effect, what was it? Let's see. There is no indication, the indictment is clear that there is no indication that any American involved with any Russians was involved knowingly. They weren't involved knowingly. They were involved unwittingly, right? And also the other thing that he said was that, let's see, that the interference from the Russians had no direct impact on the outcome of the election. Is that correct? So it had no impact on the outcome of the election. So and initially that investigation, the Mueller investigation, and initially Mueller was what is the word? He was charged with trying to find collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, right? And this investigation has been going on for at least a year. And have we come forth with any evidence yet? Have we come forth with any evidence yet? That's the question. I don't think so. I haven't seen any direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And then they sort of moved over to since there's no evidence of any direct relationship between collusion with the Trump campaign and the Russians, they've gone now to obstruction of justice. So now, they're saying that Trump obstructed justice because he fired Mueller. I think, the Constitution grants President Trump the ability to fire his attorney general, his FBI director, right? Isn't that correct? Well, anyway, I see I have my guest on the line now, and I want to go straight to him because, he has a lot he wants to talk about. But another thing I want to say, just one more thing I want to say is that, driving into the studio, there's just like so much traffic. This is Sunday evening, and we're looking at traffic. And another thing I want to mention, the Los Angeles Times has been writing a lot. I've seen a lot of articles on homelessness in Los Angeles. And in fact, I think homelessness has increased. This is the data point. Homelessness has increased 75% in the last 6 years. And in all these articles, they never connect the dots with illegal immigration. Yeah, I mean, this is just like a basic principle, like economics 101. If you have more people in your city, that means, the supply is greater. Economics 101 is supply and demand. If you have more people in your city, the demand is down, right? Did I get that right? Did I say that right? I'm going to ask Judge Joe Brown. I know it's supply and demand. You have more people. So in other words, more people are demanding jobs if you have more people, and they suppress the wages. And, when I had the building inspector here on the show, he talked about the Los Angeles building inspector, how we're experiencing a construction boom, and at least 80% of the jobs are held by illegals. So let's see. I think ICE did a raid last week, and they arrested something like 228 people. I'm not sure on that figure, but they arrested more than 200 people. And 198 of those people had felonies, had criminal convictions. Anyway, I want to bring on Judge Joe Brown. He's on the phone. This is an encore presentation. We're going to talk about manhood, and we're going to talk about its relation to our connection with, or how it's interrelated to these shootings that we're experiencing. Manhood and shootings. There's a direct correlation. There's an interconnectedness, an interrelatedness between manhood and shootings. And Judge Joe Brown is going to explain it to us. Hi, Judge Joe Brown. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
You doing? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So explain to me, what is manhood exactly, and why is it important?
See, manhood is a set of protocols, standards, behaviors, values, a system of personal ideation that makes you fit to be a protector and provider for your people. This comes from a situation where anciently it was very dangerous. They had lions, large bear, saber-toothed cats, and other things that would take you out very quickly, and life was dangerous. Mm-hmm. So men were mature males who had been acculturated by their societies to have as a primary value the protection of their people and their families, and they had a right to expect that the young males, still in boyhood, would be a viable pool and resource from which to develop future men to take their places when they became too old and then died. They would pass on their wisdom, and that wisdom would be of great use to their people. Now, just imagine, these are some very dangerous people, because if you wanted to give a barbecue, you had to go out and slay a 10, 15, 20,000 pound mammoth for the barbecue. So life was dangerous. We killed better than anything else on the planet. The lions and the tigers and the bear and the wolves and the hyena and the leopards and the cougar, they went after the crippled, the lame, and the young. We went after the biggest, the trophy. That's in us. So you take somebody that is the same genetic creature as the planetary apex predator who gets there with a stick with a rock on the end of it, and you have something with a great capacity for violence. Now, part of growing up as a man, real raising to manhood, is being able to learn about that violence when it's appropriate, when it is not appropriate, and applying it in an effective fashion. That means that you know when you should keep your cool and when it's time to let it hit the fan, because it's dangerous. You get men of peace who are also capable of being brave and courageous when it's time to be that way. Now, what you got down in Florida is not guns. You can't blame an event on the tool rather than the tool user. What you got is somebody that matches a profile. there was no father to give effective man training. Now, he went off and apparently did in 17 people. But take a look at what happens in the hood. It's not safe to walk through South Central, even though the city council, namby-pamby-poos, and says that's got too bad a connotation to call it that anymore. And why is that? Because there's no effective male guidance in South Central. There are not enough real men there. There are not enough fathers in the households to give the youth man training. So the hood is dangerous because it lacks man training. These clowns go postal because they lack man training. And that's the common thread. But you see, there are those people who went off into roughly 5 categories about downing manhood. It started off in the 50s when the radical feminists thought being married and having a traditional family was the next thing to slavery. Then you got a component in the late mid-60s of war is a man thing, and the way to stop war is to let men become in touch with their emotional, softer, feminine side, whatever in the world that is. And that's not good because it produces emotional boys who grow up to physical maturity and they don't know how to control themselves. And then you got this component of, well, you've got the LGBTQ crowd who, and associated feminists, and those white people who are straight males but weren't making it in the white world, who wanted to diffuse masculinity because it basically kept them from being compared to those they couldn't compete with. And then there's a problem we have in the black community, which is there's a very interesting psychological residuum from slavery, and I suspect that's because a lot of black women are subliminally angry because black men didn't protect them from slavery. And then there's another one wherein it is a feeling of intrinsic guilt in black women because slavery didn't work without their cooperation. The secret is the master didn't make slaves. The mother made her offspring slaves for the master's benefit, and that's a built-in source of guilt. And that goes to the things that you see in the inner city, and that leads the black woman to become the role model for the feminist type who claim that black women are the only women who are able to keep their men in check. So you get a sick function where there are no men in the household. That situation becomes the norm rather than an oddity. And what happens is you've got a bunch of single parent head of household where the head of the household doesn't know what men are good for. And prima facie case can be made that how can you raise your sons to be men if you don't know what they're supposed to be good for? So we've got a vicious cycle that is perpetrated by the media, that is controlled by people who have a great interest in emasculating the country because they perceive it to be a bad thing. But there is a concept called the yin-yang balance, which works very well. It has for thousands of years, and it's really out of balance right now.
Mm. Yeah, you know, one of the things that I always say is that there's been thousands of years of civilizations, and liberals think they can reinvent human nature. That's what, you know, we've got thousands of years of this kind of thing working. Well, you know, in your courtroom, you've seen the dynamics. You've seen a lot of what, because when you say this thing about, you know, black women feel like they are the only women that can, you know, they have this notion that they can handle their men. You know, I can't really relate to that necessarily because I had a father. He was the head of the household. I'm trying to think if I can relate to that notion, but you've been in a courtroom and you've seen a lot of these dynamics. So can you sort of elaborate on what you see in the courtroom?
I can tell you about that.
Yeah.
See, the father's good for raising girls too. If the girl has a father in the household, she says, "Daddy, could I please have $5 so I can go to the mall?" And he says, "Baby, I just gave you 10 yesterday." "Oh, Daddy, please." And she said, "Oh, okay, here's 20. Now don't bother me the rest of the week." "Thank you, Daddy." Now see, she'll grow up and learn how to deal with a man. you don't have a man in the household, she puts hands on the hip when grown. Look, let me tell you what you gonna do.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can't tell a real man what he's going to do like that. You just lost it. But on the other hand, see, the boys need to get the man training, because boys have a great propensity for growing up into being violent adult males. But that violence has a readiness to be acculturated and socialized. Boys want to be men. And to show you, we have only to look at our own country's history. We had the draft all the way through Vietnam. We had it in World War II, World War I. We had it in the Civil War. And ordinary, normal males of late youth would be drafted into the military and make quite good killers, and then come back and be good family members, good men. So it's in everybody to be violent and kill. It's just that one has to be able to know when and where, and when not, and where not. So I look at some of the things that come out of this, what I call not liberal, but pacifistic press, that is dominated by concerns that do not wish males to be strong, and concerns from males who are not strong and have a great deal of cowardliness in their soul. And they don't want that to come out. But the thing of it is when you try to suppress it, it's still there. And if it is something that's been hidden from the boy child, so he doesn't become familiar with it, he does not know what to do with it when it peeps out at him.
Oh, you know, your audio's, yeah. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. What was I going to say? You know, I saw a woman on, I think, C-SPAN, and she was with some liberal organization. I think she was, I don't know if she was a reporter, I can't remember, but she really said something to the effect that men need to change. I think she was a journalist with the New York Times when, you know, this whole Me Too thing came out. Men need to change. You know, this is what they really believe. Yeah, they really.
Oh, boy.
What do you say?
Oh, boy. You know, that reminds me of something I brought to your attention. Let me read you a letter. See, it's called hypocrisy. Now, this was written by what I would characterize as some feminists, and it's the most insulting thing I have been contacted in my life. The date of this is November 14th, 1998, and my show had just started its 15-year run. It first aired in September of that same year, and it was becoming a hit. So I got this delivered to me from Human Resources. I'll read it. I scanned it back in 98, and I came upon it not long ago when I was going back through some old writings to assemble material for a book. It says, quote, "We, the below signed, are avid and proud lesbians who resent being assigned to work on a production that features a heterosexual black male, that is Judge Joe Brown. We feel that such assignment is particularly insulting because black men are such atavistic abusers of women. If we simply must be assigned to work on a production featuring someone of his race and gender, please note that there are so many nice gay African-American men that we could have been assigned to work with instead. Though many of us have had a long history with this industry, none of us have ever had to suffer the indignity of working around a heterosexual black male before, and we think our current assignment is extremely unfair." I'll skip over a lot of it and go to the last paragraph or sentence. "We further demand that we be spared the repugnant necessity and indignity of working with him or any other black males who are heterosexual." Now, I had to deal with that every single day I showed up in the studio for 15 years. And that is the unstated thing about Hollywood. And for 15 years, I had to watch this. And that's been 20 years since this started. And they are filling the movie houses, the television screens, and a lot of social media and so-called news commentary with this kind of poison, where their objective is a hatred of straight black men, straight men in general. So when you start talking about men need to be emotional, like they say, let's change the way men are raised, you're creating a monster. You take the most dangerous organism on this planet and you want to raise him so he's not tightly in control with the apex capacity for violence on this planet. You want to take the principal predator that can eat anything in a restaurant, whether it flies, slithers, crawls, swims, or stalks. You want to take that thing that kills so well and also kills himself so well, and you don't want him raised in a fashion that arose from a cultural adaptation that evolved in lockstep with his biological evolution so that he's under control. You want to change that? You are absolutely out of your mind. And I saw this all the time. Why'd you do it? I was emotional. Why in the world do you think that's an excuse? And they see it on TV. They see it in the media. It's okay to express yourself, do your emotions. I even got a standing ovation from 300 people in the Army Corps of Engineers one time when I said your recruiting slogan is wrong. The phrase should not be all you can be. It ought to be all you should be. And men have to be taught to take pride in accomplishing those things that are expected of them. In other words, what their duty, honor, obligation, responsibility drives them to do. So when they do that, they're all right with themselves. When they don't do that, they're not. We've got this thing in society that makes me want to vomit every time I see it about bullies should be suppressed by the police, by the student faculty, the school faculty and the parents, not 7-year-olds bloodying the nose of the 7-year-old bully. You call the police on that. Not 10-year-olds fighting it out because one of them's a bully and needs to get put in his place, but you try to protect them from this, and that's one of the principal ways a boy becomes a man is to stand up for a bully, and that's how we get bullies put in their place so they don't continue it. One has only to see, what is it, Back to the Future? McFly is bullied by this man, and his son goes back in time, gives him courage, and the guy knocks the bully out in high school, and when the kid comes forward in time, there is dad, and the bully is now working for him. See, that's real, but we've gotten away from it. I got told when I was growing up by the teachers, the principal, the vice principal, and the coaches, you stand up to bullies. And they used to take a good long time walking over to stop the fight so the bully could get his butt beat. They used to do these things. Parents used to tell boys, you run away from a fight, you're going to catch it when you get home. Stand up and act like a man. All through my growing up period. Boy, men don't do that. Boy, this is what a man acts like. Look, son, act like a man. And that may have been mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, the neighbor, the school teachers, you name it. That's what we got constantly fed into us. And now everybody tries to hide it. And they're supposed to be, oh, my God, it's these guns. Oh, God, look at them, what happened in Florida. But the truth of the matter is look at some of these pacifistic publications where, oh, my God, these children are going to elementary school armed with AK-47s, and they're even wearing live hand grenades and full magazines and a ceremonial dagger stuck down in the front of their belt. But they aren't killing anybody. I wonder why. If it was a gun thing, then they would have very bloody schools. But they don't. They have peaceful because it's character. You see, it's not the tool, it is character that is of concern. And we don't have what we need. And that's why, predictably, when you get somebody that's gone postal, it's not a damn gun. It's that he has not had man training, so he knows how to handle himself. That's what you see. Or you see it in the ghetto. You go out in South Central and everybody ain't worried about a drive-by. That's because those boys are not raised like men. When you get a hood rat, what you're getting is somebody that is a boy. He's got boy plumbing, but he's raised like a girl and he likes girls. On the other hand, we've got some girls that have got girl plumbing. They are raised as girls, but they like girls sexually. So the only difference between your typical hood rat and what else is, it's like a lesbian woke up tomorrow with boy plumbing. You see, there's no difference. That is the problem. No man in the household, no man training, and nobody understands that it's his obligation to make where he lives a better place, and it's his duty to ensure that.
It's his duty. It's his duty. I want to repeat that. It is his duty to make where he lives a better place. That's
exactly.
So profound to me. That is so profound. You know, I also want to say, I want to give my data point. During Jim Crow, Black Americans had 87% two-parent families. After being on the Democratic plantation, you guys know the data, we only have 25% two-parent families. That matters. That's impactful.
Let me explain something. 1967, still a good friend of mine and I, we stay in regular touch. And in 68, we went out there to recruit for college. In those days, education was looked at as a matter of national defense. It did not cost you anything to go to a California university or state college or city college. They had what they call an incidental fee to cover your prescription medication, your dental visits, your medical visits, and tickets to the various events. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There's my music. We're going to wait. Let me take a break. Hold that thought. You're listening to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, with my guest, Judge Joe Brown. We're going to come back. And when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines. You guys know the number, no? Yeah. It's 866 866 866 866. Let me put on my glasses. Hold on, folks. Oh, I see it. It's 866 870-5752. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and we'll be right back with Judge Joe Brown. Welcome back to the Naked Truth Report. My guest today is Judge Joe Brown, and guess what we're talking about? We're talking about manhood. You know, why don't they talk about manhood in the mainstream media? Why are they talking? Oh, go ahead.
Too many of the people in mainstream media that call the shots have a personal interest in downing manhood. Now, what I was getting ready to say,
can you talk into your phone?
Okay,
Judge.
All right,
yeah.
All right, will do.
That's good.
One of the things that I was saying before the break, a friend of mine and I were recruiting for school, 67, 68. And I remember this incident in Jordan Downs, which was a rather ferocious project that I don't know if it's still there, but some of you may know what I'm talking about. So we are in there recruiting, and we would get responses like, "Are you serious, man? You can get me out of this hellhole. What do I need to do?" All right, look, there are some couple of ladies over there in the rec room. They have some paperwork they'll help you fill out so you can get to going to college. Oh, man, I'm on my way. A woman would come in. "You serious? I can get out of here?" "Yeah, you can get out of here. You can get an education. There's money." "Yeah, there's no tuition, just the incidental fee and living matters. You know, we can get that taken care of
bottom line is, this is a matter of national defense. The smarter and better educated the people are, the stronger the country is. Okay, go to the rec room. Then we'd get this. You done lost your crazy mind. Only reason I'm talking to you fools is because my caseworker told me I had to. I ain't going to no school. I ain't getting no job. I ain't working. All I got to do is flat back spread, get knocked up, and get a bigger check. And then if you ran into this woman, she didn't have just 5 kids, 4 kids, 3 like she did then. In 10, 12, 14 years later, she's got 8, 9, 10 more and has 7 or 8 different babies' daddies. And it's a whole dysfunctional mess that you've got out there. And it's gone to hell. And that's just amplified what's going on. And in 2011, the U.S. Department of Defense, concerned about the lack of toughness in their recruits, with the understanding being we can make you physically strong, but we can't make you mentally tough. You have to come in here that way. They were alarmed that when all ethnicities and races were combined and you analyzed America, you found that 42% of all Americans 35 and under were born out of wedlock. And they thought that was awful. Now it's gotten so bad that I've seen statistics where if you just include all Americans 20 and under, you get close to 80% born out of wedlock. So the family is no longer the norm. So that's getting a bit crazy there. And that's why we are having a lot of the social problems that we're having. Mm-hmm. On one hand, we have a phobia about government involvement in the effective response you would get from them if they were concerned about training the typical worker to handle modern industrial technology and computerization so that his earning capacity remained relatively high. We don't have that now, so we've got a lot of social unrest from the pressure. A lot of people are nervous about what's going on, and you've got schoolhouse to jailhouse because labor has become a commodity, and the solution to a commodity glut is cut back production. So you subsidize the producer, so you store the surplus. Well, the surplus is stored in the jail cell, not the grain silo. The cutting back of production is the welfare check, and the subsidy is the development of inappropriate attitudes, outlooks, lack of the proper education, lack of skills that translate into jobs, wrong idea, getting pregnant too early, too often.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
And finally getting a felony, and you will become permanently unemployable. Mm-hmm. Now, see, that's where we get the real live mess, and nobody wants to talk about that. And what we get is crazy solutions from the people in the media who have a vested interest in the emasculation of the country because of their perceptions of it. But what they hope to achieve is exactly the opposite of what they wind up actually getting.
Now, well, why do the media folks have a vested interest in the emasculation of men? Why?
Because, you know why. I was on the Oscar Emmy boards, and I get all this stuff from them shortly before every Oscar period or Emmy period, and they'd have links to LGBT, and LGBT would claim that 85 to 90% of the Hollywood industry, whether you were talking about executives, producers, directors, writers, support people, let alone actors or actresses, were all LGBT practitioners. Now, that's their right to do that. But the problem is that they control the means of propaganda in the country, and they're pushing things that are good for their position in one sense, but the rest of the population is just really not getting the recruits out of the pool of boyhood and girlhood to raise up into traditional manhood and womanhood.
But so you have a minority controlling the media and imposing their ideology or their desires on the majority of people.
Oh, well, that's it too. And see, one of the down things is when you subvert masculinity and the perceived standard of it being a duty to support those within your circle. Then what you wind up with is a situation that you talked about so much. You get a traffic in illegals who occupy these entry-level jobs that so many others who are here would get, but who have developed attitudes due to the lack of manhood training, and they won't take them.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we take a call? Let's take a call right now. I want to get some of these calls in. We got a lot of calls waiting. Why don't we take a call from Ronald in LA? Hi, Ronald. Line 1.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. Judge Brown, I was one of those students that you and so many other students recruited in South Central Los Angeles back in the late 60s.
All right.
And it is because of you that I became a pipe smoker. And not only that, I want to acknowledge the educational clearinghouse in Central Los Angeles and a number of the other students who were from UCLA, because that opportunity, and I think I really made something really substantial out of my life. I've had an excellent set of careers, education, in public affairs, in public diplomacy, and I was able to realize a number of the dreams that were latent within me, and yet I was able to move forward with that. I remember going up to UD camp, taking trips together. Do you hear me all right?
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm in the car.
Well, yeah, you're breaking up. Do you have a question for Judge Joe Brown? So you're one of his recruited students.
Yeah, I was one of his recruits. He was Judge Joe Brown and a number of other people who, Artie Ivy, and a number of other people who.
Yeah, Artie Ivy, he's passed away.
I did know that, yes.
And his brother, Ricky Ivy, is one hell of a lawyer now. In fact, his law firm used to provide the set for L.A. Law, the series.
Okay, all right, yeah. And
we recruited him, too.
But let me just say this. I think that as I look at the difference between our generation and the present generation of young Afro-Americans and Latinos who are coming along, I see a lot of failure to mature politically, morally, spiritually, and
hey, you know what? You're breaking up. You're breaking up. I'm going to let you go, Ronald, because you're breaking up too. It's too hard on our ears. But let's go now with Keith in LA, line 2.
Oh, yes. Hello there, Judge Brown and Kathleen. I tell you, I am so happy that Judge Brown said what he did. I work in the school system, and I don't have to say the name of the school or anything, but I'm in LA, LA Unified School District, and I'm a supervision aide. I also provide programs after school for kids. In the past, I've done this ever since 1991. Now, I have a very difficult time getting my program into the working with the schools, because what they're telling me, and my program, by the way, is a martial arts program. I'm a martial arts expert. I teach self-defense and anti-bullying. I use the martial arts and teach them civics through that, and teach them how to govern themselves and how to discipline themselves through the martial arts. So they don't want that program because they say, oh, can't make contact with the students. They may start fighting. So teaching a martial arts today would make students fight more.
But do you have a question for Judge Joe Brown? Do you have a question, Keith?
I appreciate what he's saying.
I wanted to confirm what he said.
In other words, you're giving me an amen. And the other brother, too, I remember him when we recruited him. Fine young man, he's grown up to be a fine man. Now, let me say this. You know Clifford Stewart, Master Stewart, Dr. Ron.
I've heard of him.
Okay.
Both of them are great martial artists. All three of us at one time in the 60s were playground directors over Trinity Avenue Elementary School, and it used to be awful. But the three of us got together, and we started getting resources pooled, and we got the whole neighborhood on our side because we were giving these young boys man training, and we set up a radio station over there. We were showing movies, first-run movies, taking kids to movie houses downtown L.A. because they didn't have any movie houses in South Central in those days. And we did a whole lot of things for the kids. So it was about man training, and we had everybody from Barry White was one of our students, a little skinny 13-year-old. So we had the other extreme, Tookie Williams, who founded the gang. He was a smart guy, but we couldn't get him out of the swamp, so he just became the baddest alligator in the swamp. But he wound up writing some children's books about, hey, this ain't the way. But they executed him some years ago, and I think he's still the last person to be executed on the California's death row. But see, it was a very interesting experience on the effects of manhood in establishing neighborhood peace. So it's a thing. And I can remember when I first started practicing law 45 years ago, or maybe a little longer than that. And what the deal was is the number one case that we had was getting the check turned back on because the social worker cut it off because there was a father coming by trying to be dad for one of the several kids in the household. So, I mean, it's really a bad situation where they have diffused manhood and fatherhood, some people thinking it's an evil, and it's not a good thing that we have as a result. Because women can't teach a boy manhood, but it used to be that if the father was lacking in an unusual situation, you had the whole community taking up for the absent man by putting manhood in the boy's head. And he grew up with a value of it's my business to make where I am a better, safer, and more secure place.
I love that. It's my business to make where I am a better, safe, and secure place. And I also love the fact that you said women cannot teach boys how to be men, cannot teach manhood. Right. I love that. Let's try another call. Marvin in Pasadena. Hi, Marvin. Line 3.
I have a comment and a question. I was a teacher for 37 years, and I retired in 2013. And my first 10 years were spent out in Woodland Hills, Lily White area, and my last 3 were in the hood. And it's like night and day. I mean, the only one incident, a kid came to school with a bat, out in the white area. When I spent my last 3 years in the hood, there was one way in, there was metal detectors, there was barbed wire, the school was fenced all around. We never had an incident on campus. My question is, what happened to the Quality School Act? I mean the Safe Schools Act.
It seems to have gone by the wayside because some misguided parents said they did not want their children to be in a location that looked so authoritarian. When I went to school, kindergarten through law school in L.A., every elementary school, junior high school, and high school had a high chain link fence with barbed wire at the top and locked gates. You had to come in and out the front door, and they controlled it. Master Cliff Stewart and I, who's still a good friend, talk regularly, and I used to do a counseling thing over at Fremont High School, and they had an old black heavyweight fighter, Scrap Iron Johnson. So the three of us would
spent my last
over there at Fremont. And
that's where I spent my last 3 years.
Yeah, that's where you paid your dues, brother. But what we do is, hey, look, we know you are in charge over here. We're going to whip your behind if there are any more jacked up bathrooms. We're putting you in charge. So that would pass down in the principal. How did you guys get everything so peaceful? Well, we have our ways. See, we just use the principle of manhood where you take somebody under you, you keep him straight. His job is to keep other guys straight. and it works down the line. So you've got peace. But you see, nobody knows how to do that because too many are afraid to deal with the manhood issue.
Yeah. I was just wondering, with this Florida shooting, I mean, you could just walk up on the campus. You can't do that in the hood. You can't.
No, I mean, but see, the other thing is we get that on a daily basis with all of the nonsense going on in our hoods. But you see, these kids have a little bit of backup in society. Their conditions aren't as bad as the ones we face, but they still had that buildup, so they go postal all of a sudden, it seems. But if you look, you see the same thing. They can't handle bullies. They're surly, sullen, withdrawn, and there's no man around to give them man training. So when they act crazy, everybody's, oh, my God, it's these guns. And see, the other thing is, let me say something about that. He could have done a lot more damage if he had walked in there with a common pump-action 12-gauge shotgun and double-aught buckshot. That's really scary. What he shot somebody with is with a 5.56 by 45 NATO round, which is also known as a 223. In hunting circles, that's a good varmint cartridge, but it's not perceived as being useful for shooting anything bigger than a coyote. So we look at AROR, assault rifle. No, it stands for Armalite. That weapon has been produced since 1952 when Eugene Stoner patented it and gave the patent to Armalite, which was a division of Fairchild Aviation. So it is the most common weapon in America. There are a whole bunch of them around. It's nothing new. It's not an assault rifle because an assault rifle is by definition a machine gun. It just looks like one. So, I mean, California says it's okay to have an M4 look-alike if it's a 22 rimfire, but you make it a 22 center fire, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's so frightening. And you see, a whole lot of that is image. I'd be more worried about somebody taking a common Remington 740 Game Master that's been out there for 55 years and 30-06 and doing somebody in, or your old-time or 12-gauge shotgun Remington 870, or your 195 Big 5 sporting goods get you a Mossberg 500. You could really do some damage then. So people are talking about, oh, my God. And if you drive in Los Angeles, you see all of these people now that have these abbreviated driving tests. You know, you go into the DMV, you back out, drive around the corner, you know, you stop at a stop sign, go to the next, you make a right without stopping, you get to the stoplight, and then you come back, go in the lot, you got a driver's license. You get on the 101 and you get behind morons, can't operate a vehicle. Get on the 405 and it's a disaster all day long because all of the people behind the wheel of a much more dangerous contrivance where many more people are killed every week, every day, every year than get done in by any firearm, and everybody pays no attention to that because, you see, that is not something that people get scared of because everybody does it. In the southern states where everybody's got a firearm, you don't have that kind of thing going on because you're going to walk in and go jack somebody up. No, somebody may be harmed. Right here, here in Mississippi, 3 weeks ago, somebody was getting ready to go off, walked into a school, getting ready to go do that with a shotgun, and one of the teachers pulled his pistol out, put it to his head, no situation. Arkansas, 3 or 4 months ago, somebody came over there with a rifle, getting ready to do something. The boy's vice principal pulled his .45 out of his glove compartment, tracked the guy down before he could shoot anybody. No problem, you see. And you got 17 dead people. I'm saying, you know, hero, why didn't somebody who's going to die anyway try to take this dude out, you know? So it's kind of like you're missing a point here. You know, we used to get taught as boys, you know, you're going to die anyway. It might as well be for something. So at least you get remembered because in 100 years, you're just going to be a name if you didn't do something to distinguish yourself. Think of the glorious thing of being able to be a hero and see boys
ate that up. We looked at John Wayne. We looked at Woody Strode. Everybody looked at Clint Eastwood. Everybody had the various heroes. It doesn't make any difference who it is, you know, and it's about being a man.
Yeah.
But right now, all of these heroes, you know, it's like they got alien powers. That's not reality.
Right. And that goes back to all this fantasy movie stuff, like this movie, fantasy, not real world. And another, you know, that data point that you pointed out, Judge Brown, about under 20, 80% of these kids are all illegitimate. 80% of all races are illegitimate. They're not getting their man training. We've got to talk about this. Man training, manhood is where it's at, right? For boys.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, see, here's another thing. I was a scout master, Cub Scout master for about 15 years. I was known for having the best scouts in this district.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we noted in the whole scouting program was young boys are most receptive to their mothers and women until they get about 7 years old. That's basic human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when they start transitioning from 7 to being 8, you want to involve men in the process because young boys are anxious to hear things from men. Now we don't have too many men involved in scouting, and now they admit girls. And the whole thing is, you know, like, wow, a picnic instead of doing what the scout program was about, putting manhood in boys.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Oh, Judge Joe Brown, we got to go. I'm sorry. It goes by so quickly. I love having you on the show. I'm going to have you on again. This is the Naked Truth Report. My host is Judge Joe Brown. I love having you on the show. And I want to encourage all the listeners to go to my YouTube channel, the Naked Truth Report YouTube, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel. And also go to the Facebook page, because we got to get the numbers up, because why? I'm talking to these ICE folks and I want to have the numbers up. So thank you, Judge Joe Brown. I'm going to have you on again. This is so important, I think, right?
Thank you. Yes, my pleasure.
Thank you. I'll have you on again. Thank you for listening to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. Don't forget to go subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Naked Truth Report. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
You don't love me, it's plain.